So today I'll talk about SOAP web services. That means your SOAP-based web services. Okay. So can you people talk about SOAP web services? Yes. Any idea? SOAP web services. Uses XML to interact. Okay. Yeah. So Satbir, Manasa, Ritvik, and your batch, please make sure that you attend the class at this time itself. Morning. I'm not taking the sessions. I guess in between I missed one mail. What happened is I sent a reply all, but I guess only Sadbir got that mail. I couldn't see I didn't notice it. I'm sorry. Yes, the day before yesterday. Always please try to attend the class at this time. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. Please go through the records, and if you got any issues, please let me know. I'm uploading the records regularly. Just check that. So I'm done with that RESTful web services. So if you want to attend the live session again, let me know. So I will add you people to another batch also. Yeah, fine. So SOAP-based web services, yes, they are based on SOAP. SOAP, what is it? It's a protocol. In SOAP-based web services, first of all, you should know about SOAP. SOAP stands for Simple Access Object, Simple Object Access Protocol. Any idea about SOAP? SOAP. Any idea about SOAP? Sorry. SOAP, I'll tell you people. It's one of the protocols which is used by a web service client and web service to interact with each other. So we'll develop a web service, right? So here, SOAP-based web services are also based on client-server architecture itself. Okay, so you'll have a web service which provides services. You'll have web service client which will avail the services provided by web service. So any application you see can be a web service client. Yeah, you see a web service client, how it interacts with the web service. So it uses that SOAP protocol. So whenever a web service client wants to place a request, so what it does is it constructs a SOAP request. Okay, and SOAP is basically XML based. It is XML based. SOAP is actually XML based here. Yes. That means SOAP request is constructed using XML. It's XML format. So in that request, it will add that information and sends it to the service. And the web service, what it does is, it will take that SOAP request, will process the request, and you'll find that you'll get some response from the server. It constructs SOAP response and will send it back to the client. Beep sound, okay. Not sure. Okay, let me just do this. Now, still you hear any noise? Okay, thank you. So that SOAP request when it is sent to the server. So server will take that SOAP request, and what it does, it will process that request, and it will send a SOAP response. So to the client, it will send a SOAP response. So always the server, that web service, it will construct a SOAP response and will send it back to the client. Yeah, this also XML based. This is also XML based itself. Yes. Okay. So now I have a question. How the SOAP messages are transported across the network or transmitted across the network? Yeah. How the SOAP messages are transmitted across the network, that you need to understand. You know, existing web infrastructure which you got, it doesn't support SOAP. You know that? So, but your web services are always web-based applications itself. You'll find that web services are web-based applications, but you will find that your existing web infrastructure, it doesn't support SOAP. Any idea how the SOAP messages are transmitted across the network then, if they are not supported by SOAP? You know, not XML. SOAP is XML based messages itself. SOAP messages are XML messages itself. Okay. Yeah. So you will find that this is where HTTP comes into the picture. HTTP comes into the picture. Okay. Yes. Just a minute, please. Yeah, Amit, I sent you a couple of messages. Just check once and respond. Okay. Yeah. Amit, hope you can hear me. Yes. Yes. So HTTP, yes, now it plays a key role in transmitting the SOAP messages across the network, I can say. Okay, HTTP will be used to transmit that SOAP messages across the network. Yes, you'll find that SOAP messages, they will be wrapped in HTTP. You know, always a SOAP request will be wrapped in HTTP request. Okay, SOAP request is wrapped in HTTP request, and SOAP request. SOAP response is wrapped in HTTP response. You know that existing web infrastructure, it supports HTTP, right? So that's the reason why you'll find that the SOAP messages are not directly transmitted across the network because it is not possible. So they are wrapped in HTTP messages and they're sent across the network. That is what happens. See, this is where you'll hear this term a lot. SOAP over HTTP. You'll hear this term SOAP over HTTP a lot. Okay, SOAP over HTTP. Yes, SOAP over HTTP. That means what is SOAP over HTTP? That means you'll find that SOAP messages, they are sent across SOAP messages. They carry this. Sorry, yeah. HTTP messages. They carry SOAP messages across the network. Yes. Okay. Fine. Now you understood that SOAP messages are carried by HTTP messages. Fine. Now you know why SOAP messages are XML based. Any idea why SOAP messages are XML based? Why XML is used here? Why SOAP messages are XML messages actually? Yes, that's right. Because you see, when we talk about web services, they should be platform independent, language independent. Anyone should be able to access them, right? Any application should be able to access them. So now in web services, you'll find that heterogeneous applications, you'll, they'll be communicating with each other. You know, cross-platform applications, I can say, they will be communicating with each other. So they need something in common. So data which they communication, when we talk about you know, two applications interacting with each other, of course you see the data plays a key role. They always communicate with each other by exchanging some sort of data. So the data, both the applications should be able to understand the data, right? So that is where your XML plays a key role. So which is considered as language independent, platform independent. Any application can process this XML data. That's the reason why SOAP messages are XML messages. Okay. Yeah. Now let me show you people a very high level overview of how this looks like here. When we talk about a SOAP message, so you see on the extreme right side, let's say you have a web service which is developed in Java. See, if you develop a web service developed in Java, you know that web service, you'll find that it is platform independent. That web service is not only accessible by Java, that web service is not only accessible by Java, but you'll find that even other applications, I mean, if are developed using some other language, even they should be able to access the web service. Okay, so now you see, let's say you have a .NET client on the extreme left side. That means an application, a .NET application. It wants to avail the service or access that web service. So the .NET client, you see, uh, in order to place the request for that service here, in order to place the request for that service, it has to construct a SOAP request, wrap it in HTTP request, send it across to the network. But don't you think that will be a little complicated? As a developer, not only .NET, even or suppose we have a .NET application, let's say a web service is developed using .NET, let's say a web service is developed using .NET. Yes. Now we have to access it using Java, let's say. We have to access it using Java. So in that case, even we have to make sure that in order to access that web service developed using .NET, we first construct a SOAP request, then you see wrap it in HTTP request, and then send it across to the network to the service. And the request is processed, once the request is processed, the web service will construct a response, SOAP response. It will wrap it in HTTP response and sends it back to the client application, let's say our application. Now we have to read that SOAP request from that read that SOAP response from HTTP response, and you see, we have to accordingly use that response. So it doesn't look that simple, right? So if you have to construct the SOAP request, process that SOAP response, yes. just think about it. It will be little complicated. So that is where, you know, we got some tools which will help us in this regard. So good good news is that you don't need to explicitly write this code to create that SOAP request. Okay, wrap it in SOAP, uh, uh, wrap it in HTTP request. Okay, yeah, yes. Hope you people got it. Now see, we have a proxy. We can create a proxy here. Okay, we can create a proxy. Yes, we can create a proxy with the help of a tool. You know that proxy which is created with this tool, with a tool, we have tools for that. I will say that the .NET client or any client, even Java clients, can take the help of the proxy. For different languages, we have different proxies. Okay, so we can use that proxy to generate that SOAP request and all. So here, you see, as a application client, the .NET client now need not worry about SOAP requests and XML and all. So what it does is simply it will call that proxy. You see, that call will be a .NET call itself, a simple method call in .NET. That call will be a simple method call in .NET. So that proxy will take that call from the client, .NET client, and you know what it does? It will generate a SOAP request. It will generate a SOAP request, and it will wrap it in HTTP request, and then it will send it to the server across the network. You know, your proxy will be aware of that location of that web service and all. So while creating the proxy, at that time itself will provide the details. Proxy will be aware of the web service, the location of the web service and all. Okay, hope you people got it. Yes, fine. Now, you see, on the other hand, you have message handlers. On the service side also, you see, we don't need to worry about when we develop a web service, we don't need to worry about handling that SOAP response. Okay, we don't need to write any code to handle that SOAP response manually. So we will have the message handlers which will take that incoming SOAP request, that HTTP request itself, and that's you know, it will be stripped down, and you'll have that SOAP request in it. So that SOAP request, incoming SOAP request, you know, your message handlers will take it, and in turn they'll read that SOAP message and convert it into appropriate method call. You see, if it is a Java based web service, you'll have a Java method in it. So that method will be called here accordingly. Yes. Yep. So that message handlers will take it, will take the SOAP request, and accordingly they'll call that methods which you got here. Okay, web service method. So web service has got some functionality, right? So that functionality, how we are going to implement it using Java methods itself, right? So always we implement the functionalities using Java methods itself. Yes, fine. So if it is Java, if it is a Java-based web service, you'll have methods which will have some functionalities in it. That method invocations, you see, you'll find that they'll be taken care by the message handlers on behalf of the clients now. Yes, that's it. Okay, good. Now, it was just a very high level overview. Hope you got it to some extent. Yes. So any questions in this regard, please let me know. Of course, we are going to implement these things there. You'll get more clarity on this. So as of now, at least from this part of the discussion, you got any questions? No? Okay. Because your existing web infrastructure, your web, it won't support SOAP. You cannot directly transmit SOAP messages across the network. It is not possible. Okay. Yes. Yeah. You see, it's a responsibility of the client application, which is placing the request. But you see, on the client side, you have proxies, which will take care of the stuff. Okay. On the client side, we got proxies, which will take care of this. Okay. Yeah. Yep. No, no. Client is not a browser. When I say web service, as I told you people, it can be any application, Java, .NET, any application which is trying to avail the services of a web service. Okay, any application. No, it's too early for you people. First of all, let's try to understand the basics. Yes. Anyways, we'll be going through it. Now, let's do one thing. Let's see how to develop a web service. What kind of support we have here in Java for developing a SOAP-based web service. Okay, yes. So when we talk about Java, you'll find that we have access to, it's a framework, access to framework from Apache Software Foundation. We got a standard API as well called as JAX-WS. Now we can use access to framework to develop a web service, or we can also go for JAX-WS. We'll see both the ways here. Either we'll see access to as well as JXWS. First, we'll start with JXWS. Okay. So, sorry, we'll start with Access to first. So, Access to is a framework which is actually from Apache Software Foundation. So, let's use this Access to framework. Now, first of all, so in order to use this framework, now you need to you need you need to make sure that you obtain this access to libraries. You need access to libraries here. Okay. So from where you'll get this access to libraries. Let's see. Access to. So this is the site from where you can obtain that access to libraries. Here you got this 1.6.x, the latest release. Make sure that you download this binary distribution. You download this binary distribution which you got here. Okay, the zip file, binary distribution zip file is there now. 1.6.3 binary distribution. Okay, so again I pasted that link, right? Sorry, this is a link. Okay, now you can download this binary distribution. So once you're done downloading it, you see you'll get a zip file which I've extracted. So if you extract that zip file, this is what the contents will be in that folder. In the extracted folder, you should be able to see this content. Okay. Now you see in that lib folder, you'll have that libraries for that access to. These are all access to libraries, I can say. Okay, fine. Now let's try to develop a web service using these libraries and all. But one of the important things here, the creation of this or creating this proxy, which helps us to create the SOAP messages and wrap them in HTTP messages. Creating that proxies and all, you know, um, for that I'm going to take the help of Eclipse IDE. So in the Eclipse IDE, we got the support. So first of all, in order to use that access to framework, in the access to framework, you got the support for generating that proxies and all. Access to framework provides that libraries for us, and Eclipse, both Eclipse and access to together, you know, will simplify the development of the SOAP-based web service, I can say. They both together will simplify the development of web service, SOAP-based web service, I can say. So first of all, you see, to download that SOAP based web service using access to, so what I will do is I'll configure that access to framework. I'll configure the access to framework in the Eclipse ID. I'll configure the access to framework in the Eclipse ID. Okay, yes, let's do that. Fine. So let's see how to configure access to framework in Eclipse ID. All of you just make a note of it. Please make a note of it. So configuring access to framework in Eclipse ID. Configuring access to framework in Eclipse ID. So the first and foremost thing, what you need to do is uh, open this window preferences. But before that, also make sure that you download that access to libraries first of all. Okay, download that access to libraries. Download that zip file, extract it. Make sure that you extract it, and you know that location of that folder, extracted folder. Okay, yes. Now you see under the window you got preferences. So select this preferences here. Once we do that, you see you're going to get a pop-up window like this. Just expand it. On the left side you have lister, some list of options here. From this list of options, you see down you have web services. Expand it. You have web services, just expand it. Okay, just expand it. And then we have access to preferences, select it. Access to preferences, just select it. Okay, now once you select that access to preferences, on the right side you should see this access to runtime location. You see where you need to specify the extracted access to extracted folder. Just now you downloaded access to and extracted that folder, right? That extracted folder path you have to specify it here. So click on browse. I have that access to folder here. That extracted folder is this one. Access to 1.6.3. Click on OK. That's it. So once you specify the path, now you should be able to see that message. Down you got a message. See what it says. Access to runtime loaded. Access to runtime loaded. So that is a message which is expected. Okay, here. Now next you see under the web services on the left side again, you see you come on the left side under the web services you have server and runtime, right? Select this option, server and runtime. Now the server and runtime option here, so it indicates like on which server you want to host this web service. That web services, they should be hosted on which server? That server name. Let's say I want that web service to be hosted on Tomcat server itself. I guess we have integrated Tomcat 7, right? So Tomcat 7. So just mention it as Tomcat 7. And web service runtime Apache access to. Okay. Web service runtime Apache access to. So what do we mean by a web service runtime? What do people think? Web service runtime means, any idea? Web service runtime means, web service runtime means, I can say that it actually is the platform which is needed, the platform which is needed to run this web applications or execute this web application, I can say. Sorry, web service. The platform which is needed to run this web service. You need a special platform to run this web service, and it will be provided by the Apache access to framework. So Apache access to framework is not just it is not only providing that components API to develop that web service, not only helps us to develop web service, but you see it also provides a platform to run the web services here. It also provides a platform to run this web services or execute this web services. Yeah, you need a special environment for the web services, and it is provided by Apache access to. Okay, yes, just a minute. I'm checking. Okay, fine. So you got some example descriptions also. You can just go through them for your reference purpose. Every official site will have some details of the technology. Okay, fine. Now I'll click on apply and OK. That's it. So what we did now, we have configured that access to framework in the Eclipse IDE, and also we provided that configured that runtime server details, and the runtime environment which is needed for executing that web services. Yes. Okay. Now we are done with this. What's next? Now we need to develop a web service. We are ready to develop a web service. Okay. We are ready to develop a web service. Yes. So let's try to develop a web service here. When we talk about a web service, generally what is a web service? You know that web service means which encapsulates some business logic. Web service has got some piece of business logic which is business logic, or which is also known as some functionality. You can say, you can call it as a functionality. Yes. So that web service basically is considered as platform independent and language independent. You know that. Mainly, web service encapsulates some business logic or some functionalities which can be accessed by other applications, I can say, which can be accessed by other applications. Yes. Okay. Now, I would like to develop a web service, let's say, which has got some functionality like currency converter, let's say, currency converter. So this currency converter, so what it does, it will take that it it will convert the dollars to rupees, let's say. Okay, if you pass that number of dollars, let's say, it will provide the rupees, the amount in rupees, let's say. Okay, so that currency converter service will have a functionality that is converts dollars to rupee. Yes. Okay. Yes. Dollar to rupee. Okay. So now how will you start here? How are you going to start? When we talk about developing a SOAP-based web service, now we have two different ways of developing this web service. Okay, we can follow top-down approach, or which is also called as contract first approach, and we got another approach which you can follow, that is bottom up, or service first. Service first. Okay. So you see here, uh, in the top-down approach, first of all, well, it is also called as contract first, where we will define a WSDL document first. WSDL. WSDL. Yes. What is WSDL? In SOAP-based web services, WSDL plays a key role. WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language. Web Services Description Language, I can say, WSDL. So basically, WSDL is XML based. WSDL is actually XML based here. Yes. A WSDL document is used to describe a web service. WSDL document is used to describe a web service, I can say. Yes. Okay. So how exactly this WSDL looks like? It is also important to know that. So let's check this once. Okay, we got very good description here. We got a lot of terminology here which you need to know. In SOAP-based web services, we got some different function terminology which we use. So what it says here, you see, WSDL is XML format for describing network services as a set of endpoints operating on messages. Either document oriented or procedure oriented information. Yes. You see, you'll find that it says it describes services, network services, a set of endpoint a set of endpoints operating on messages containing the document oriented or procedure oriented information. It means you can just think of it as some data I can see. Now, the operations and messages are described abstractly. In the WSDL, you'll have the details about the operations. And then bound to concrete network protocols and message formats to define endpoint. Yes. Now, first of all, what do we mean by operations here and messages? Any idea why this term operations is used in SOAP-based web services? Okay, it plays a key role. It's important to know what do we mean by operations here. Operations means yes, that's right, very good. So operations in web services terminology, SOAP-based web services means they are nothing but methods. Please make a note of it. Operations means in Java's terminology, I can say that they are simply methods. Methods are known as operations. Okay, methods they are called as operations in web services. Yes. So and we have messages. When we talk about messages, messages are described abstractly. Messages means I can say that they are nothing but that input parameters which we pass, the input parameters which are passed on, they are called as messages. For the methods we pass input parameters, right? Parameters they represent the input values. Parameters they represent the input values. And you see that method once it is done processing, once it is done executing, it may return a value, right? That output value also it is known as a message itself. So the input and output values for a method they are known as messages here. We call them as messages. Yes. Okay. And you see, not only that, you have the other details, like you see, they're bound to concrete network protocols, like which network protocols are used, message format, and all such details. So generally, when we talk about this web services, as I told you, we will have SOAP messages. Generally, we can wrap the SOAP messages in HTTP messages, and we can send across the network. But we have not only HTTP protocol to carry these messages, SOAP messages, but we can also use other protocols also. Apart from HTTP, we got other protocols which can be used to carry the SOAP messages. Any idea about it? So even other protocols can be used for carrying the SOAP messages. What are those protocols? We have SMTP, POP, all the application layer protocols can be used. But you see, HTTP itself will be widely used. So the details, network protocols like SOAP messages will be wrapped in which protocol messages. So that details are also configured here in the WSDL. Okay, yes, that you need to understand. Fine. So this way, in a WSDL document, you'll have the complete details about the web services. Okay, so you see especially that method, that operation details. Like operations means the methods. See, how do we implement that functionalities using methods, right? If it is Java, then of course you're going to use methods to implement those functionalities. Yeah. So you know what? So whatever the methods we have in that web service, we call them as operations basically. The methods which we define in the web services are called as operations. Like what operations you have, what input those methods or operations take, what output they return. Okay, every detail about that web service you'll find that you'll have in this WSDL document. Okay, yes, fine. Who will use this WSDL? Like, why do we need this WSDL document for a web service? For a web service, you see, generally you'll find that a WSDL document will be attached. Yes. What is the purpose of this WSDL document? Yes. So who will use this WSDL document? So the clients who wants to access the service. A web service, I can say that it is exposed through the WSDL document itself. In the WSDL document, you'll have the complete details about the web services. Your clients, or you can say consumers, yes, web service consumers. The clients, web service clients who consume these web services, okay, who will avail the services of web service, who wants to access this web service, okay. Client who wants to access this web service, they need that WSDL document. You know, you have tools which can help us to generate proxies using that WSDL documents. Based on that information which you got in the WSDL, proxy can be created. So that proxy, you see, it will have all the details about the web service. Proxy will have all the details about the web service, so that it can interact with that web service on behalf of the clients, I can say. Okay. Yes. Proxy can interact with the web service on behalf of the web service clients. It won't directly interact, but what it does, it helps us to generate that SOAP messages and send it to the server, I can say. Yes. Fine. So let's also go through this WSDL document once. So in the W3 schools, we'll see. So first of all, I would like to show you people the skeleton of a WSDL document, kind of template, blank template without any details here. Just a minute. So we have this structure, all of you. So this is important. This is your WSDL structure. It's just a skeleton, I can say. So in a WSDL document, you'll find all these elements. You have one more element which is missing here. Don't worry about it. So we'll see that later. So the W3 schools didn't provide it. You will find a service also. Service element will be there. So types, message, port type, and binding. So these are the different XML elements which you'll see. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you see, first of all, you will follow a procedure to read a WSDL document, I can say. Let's see how to read a WSDL document. So first and foremost thing, what you will do is here, you will start reading the WSDL document from the binding, sorry, not binding, port type. Okay, always read the WSDL document from port type here. Because you see, in the port type, you'll have the details about the operations. No? In the port type, what happens, you'll have the details about that operations here, which are available in this web service. What are the operations which are provided by this web service? Those details, you got them here in the port type element. Okay. Operations means, as I told you people, they are nothing but methods. Operations means they are methods. Now each method, it represents functionality or some business logic. Yes. Okay. Next, that operation, for that operation, it may take some input I may return some output, right? Now, that message elements basically they represent, we use them to register that input and output messages which are exchanged. We call them as messages here, okay? The data, that input, that values which you pass to that method or operations here, they are known as messages. That input value which you pass is a message. Output value which is written by the method is also called as a message. But you see they are classified as input and output messages. Input message means it represents that input value which has to be passed on to the web service, I can say. An output message represents what value the web service returns. What value the web service returns here is. Okay. Next, what else you have here? Messages will define those input and output. We have to configure those details, like which messages are input messages, how many input messages we have for for an operation, how many output messages we got for a particular operation. That message details will configure them over there in that messages element. So the data, the messages, they represent the data, right? That is what it says. Next, we got types here. What are types? Data type definitions. Can you people tell me data type definitions means? Yes. Yes. No idea. So it means, you see, actually we are talking about the input messages and output messages, right? But how about the data type details? Like, that input message is what type, the output message is what type. So when we talk about data, of course, data will have some sort of formats, right? Some sort of, will have the type details. See the type details, you'll find that they have wrapped in that particular types elements. How about bindings here down? Bindings. Can someone explain bindings here? Yes. So bindings means, you see, the protocols which we'll be using. SOAP is default. Along with SOAP, what is the other protocol which you're going to use? SOAP messages. If you're going to wrap in HTTP, that means we'll be binding that SOAP to HTTP, or SOAP with SMTP, or FTP, SOAP with FTP, which application layer protocol is used to wrap that SOAP messages and send them across the network. Yes. So those details, you'll find them in the findings. That's it. So hope you people got it. Anyways, you'll see concrete examples of this. Okay. So we'll develop web services where you will find this digital documents, of course. Now, any questions in this regard, please let me know. No? Okay, fine. So, who will create this WSDL document? What do you people think? Are we supposed to create this WSDL document? Web service provider. Let's say I've developed a web service, then I'll become web service provider, right? That means I or we. Let's say we have developed a web service now. Now that means we are web service providers. So now are we supposed to write the code to generate this WSDL document also? What do you people think? No, then who will generate it? So the tools will help us in this regard, yes. Whatever the frameworks you're using or the APIs you're using, those tools itself, you'll find that inbuilt we have the support for that. Yes. Okay. So good news is, you know what? You'll be writing less code when it comes to web services. You have a lot of tools which will help us in this regard. Only thing is try to understand the concepts properly. So that is important. That is the key here. Okay. Yes. So we can take the help of the tools. Yeah. Okay. So now let's try to develop a web service. Having understood this basics, we'll go through this WSDL and I'll show you SOAP messages also later on. Definitely we'll go through SOAP messages also. Okay. Yeah. Now first of all, you see, please make a note of it. I'm creating a web service, SOAP web service. For that, create a new dynamic web project here. SOAP based web services are also web applications itself. Okay. Yes. SOAP based web services are also web applications itself. Yes. So we'll create a dynamic web project. That is the first thing which we'll do. Okay. Yes. Select dynamic web project. I'll call it a sample access to service Tomcat 7, but dynamic web module version please make it 2.5. because this access to uses XML to configure for configurations. Use 2.5, it supports XML. Dynamic web module version, don't forget, make it 2.5. So now you see here, uh, you can click on next. You can click on next. The web.xml file is checked here. Click on finish. Just a simple web project, dynamic web project. So the way we have created it earlier. So we are doing the same thing here. Okay. Now we have that sample service. Now, just a normal web project. So select this project, right click on it. As of now, before we do this, I'll show you people, you see, this is just a normal web project. So we have web.xml file. As of now, it is blank. I mean, you have only welcome file list over there. That's it. Nothing much. Lib folder, there is nothing. In the web folder, webin folder, you have only lib and web.xml files, right? That's it. Nothing else. Okay. Now, I would like to configure access to framework here. So I want to use access to framework to develop web services, right? I would like to configure that access to framework here. I would like to configure the access to framework here. So how do we configure that access to framework? Yes, what to do? So in order to configure the access to framework, select the project. Second step, configuring access to framework. Select the project. Please make a note of it. Configuring access to framework in that web project. Select the project, right click on it. You have properties option. Okay, select the project, right click on it. You have properties. Select properties here. You see, on the left side you have project facets. Select project facets. After selecting properties, you'll get a pop-up window, right? So on the left side you have that wizard. What is that wizard? Project facets. You see, in the project facets you'll find access to web services. Check this option. Access to web services. Okay. Check that access to web services. Okay. Yes. Access to web services. What is this project facets actually? See, it will this project facets will help you to configure this framework now. Okay. Yes. Access to framework. Check that option and click on OK. That's it. Just wait for a while. See, it configures that access to framework in this project now. Okay. See, now we have some additional configurations here. So we'll go through it later in the web.xml file. And you see to that lib folder, you got some additional jars which are added access to jars. Not only that, you have additional folders also added here to this webinfo, right? Yes. Yep. So we got all the setup, I can say now. So now we got everything in place. We'll discuss more about this configurations later on. Now let's try to create a web service. Okay, it's pretty simple and straightforward. Creating a web service is very simple and straightforward. So as I told you people, I would like to develop that functionality currency converter. So in Java, so how will you implement that currency converter functionality? What you're going to do? First of all, you'll define a Java class, right? And then define a method in it to implement that functionality. So you'll follow the same approach here. So that approach, as I told you people, we have two different approaches to develop a web service. One is a top-down approach. The other one is bottom-up approach. Okay. Now we'll develop the web service using bottom-up approach. In bottom-up approach, what happens? First, we'll define a service class, I can say. Later on, it is converted into a web service, and you'll have a WSDL generated for it. That WSDL itself is called as a contract for the web service. WSDL itself is actually known as a contract for that web service, I can say. Okay, yes, fine. So in top-down approach, first we'll develop a WSDL document and we'll provide all the details about that web service in that WSDL document. We'll be providing all the details about that web service in the WSDL document. And then we'll use a tool to create a web service using that WSDL. We'll create a WSDL document, and with the help of that WSDL document, you'll find that we'll generate the web service code, web service class, I can say, or it's a service implementation class will be created. Okay. So now we are following bottom up approach where first we'll define the web service class, the service implementation class, and then we'll generate the web WSDL. Okay. Yes. Okay. So hope you people got it. Now let's do this. I'll define a class here. So let's say we'll call it as com.converter. So currency converter. Click on finish. I'll define a method. $2 p takes number of dollars, let's say. Return number of dollars to 63. Okay, that's it. So now this is just a normal Java class, right? It's, you can call it as a service class now, where you'll be writing that business logic related to that web service. We're writing the business logic related to that particular web service, I can say. Yes. Now, now this is just a normal Java class, and you see if you create an object for this class, now you can just access that method, a functionality which is defined here in this method within the same machine, local machine. That's it. That functionality is accessible within the same machine locally, I can say. That's it. Yeah. So here you see, you'll find that this is not a web service now. We have to convert it into a web service. What if we convert it into a web service, then what capabilities you'll have for this web service? Can you people tell me what will be the capabilities? If you convert it into a web service, then what will be the capabilities? Yes. Yes. You know, if it is a web service, then it will be capable of taking SOAP messages, okay, and it should be able to process a request which are placed through SOAP services also, right? That is the first thing. They'll have capabilities to process a request which are placed using SOAP services. That is what I can say. Yes. So here you see, you have message handlers which will take that incoming SOAP request and they'll convert it into a method call now. So this method will be called in appropriately. So who will take care of all these things? The framework itself. But we have to register this class as a service class now with the framework, your access to framework, which is providing the environment to run this web services, I can say. Okay, yes. So your access to framework itself is providing the environment, right? So we have to make sure that we register this service, okay, and also make sure that a message handler. So the framework now will associate a message handler to it. Okay, we don't need to worry about it. Okay, yes, fine. So let's do this now. Let's convert it into a web service and make it. We'll register it with the access to framework. Let's say. Okay, yes. For that, I'll select the currency converter class. Please make a note of it. You know, converting a simple Java bean to a web service here. Okay, we're generating a web service using simple Java bean, I can say. Yes. Okay. So you see, after selecting this currency converter class, we have web services option here. Under the web services, we have this create web service. Create web service option is there. Select this create web service option. Select web service. Okay. Create web service. I'll show you once again. Select the currency converter, right click on it. You have web services. Under the web services, you have create web service option. Select this option. Create web service. So web service type is bottom up Java Bean service. Bottom up Java Bean service here. Okay. Yes. It is bottom up approach. Okay. Bottom up Java Bean service. Okay. So that means we are following this service first approach here. First, we are defining a service class and converting it into web service. So service implementation class details, you see, we have it here. You see, server runtime is Tomcat 7. Web service runtime is Apache access to, right? It should be access to. Make sure that it is access to. And you see the service project. So it is sample access to service, right? Yeah. Now you have click on next. Make sure that generally you'll have this defaults. If there is any issue, you can just modify it accordingly. It should be web service runtime Apache access to server runtime. You see, if you are Tomcat 7, Tomcat 7. If it is Tomcat 8, Tomcat 8. Accordingly, you'd have to configure it. That's it. Now you can click on finish straight away. Okay, click on finish. I can click on next or finish. You see, if you click on next, let me show you people. We have this generated default service XML file. So it is asking you people to generate a default XML file. What is the services XML file? Yes. So generally after creating a web service, so we have to register it with the framework, access to framework. So this services XML file is used for that purpose. Services XML file is used for that purpose. Okay, hope you got it, all of you. So the way you see, after creating a servlet, we'll configure the servlet using annotations or XML, right? Here, you see, we'll do the same. Just a minute, please. It is generating. So I'll click on finish. Don't worry about those options. Click on finish. Yeah, you won't find any difference in this class here, okay? Just a minute. It's still working. Okay, so you're done. Actually, what you'll do is we'll try to deploy it on the server, okay? Select the project, right click on it. You have run on server option here. Let's deploy it. We'll click on run on server option. Okay, yes. Now you see, we have this option. Now you see we have this page. Once you deploy this service on the server, okay, you should see this page. Run on server option itself, okay? There's no other option, just select run on server, that's it. When you do that, you should be able to see this page, okay? Yes, it says Apache Software Foundation. So welcome to new generation of Access. In this page, you have services link. Click on the services. In the services, you should be able to see that currency converter service. You should be able to see this currency converter service, I can say. So we got that web service, I can say. Now let's try to click on this currency converter. Okay, yes. Click on this currency converter. You know, if you click on this currency converter link, you'll find that you'll get this WSDL document here. We don't need to generate it. You see, it is already generated, WSDL document. WSDL document. So now you see you have port type element where you have the details about that operation, dollar to rupee. What is it? Method. Input message means input message means input message means yes. Input message means it represents that input parameter, I can say. That parameter for that method. So that dollar to rupee method, you see it is referred to as operation here, and that parameter for that dollar to rupee method is represented as input message here. Okay, yes, fine. Output message means it represents that value which is written by that method. What value that method represents, that value is represented by that output message. And we got many more details here which we need to understand, but let's do it in the next session. Meanwhile, you can also try creating the project this way. Okay, yes. Try to create the project the same way as we did, and I'll explain more of this. We still will, discuss a lot about this WSDL in the next class. Okay, yes, fine. And we'll see how to consume this web service by creating a proxy and all, and how it internally works and SOAP messages. So all such things we'll discuss. Yeah, fine. So I'll stop it here today. Let's meet tomorrow and continue our discussion. Thank you all. Bye bye.